Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Badman Reviews. And seeing as it's Tuesday, this will be a short video, but I decided to switch it up a little bit and do kind of a voiceover of the gameplay and give you my thoughts on the Division beta, a game that I have been very excited for, and I can actually finally talk about. Sadly, I wasn't able to record any of the footage, so I am using someone else's footage, but that doesn't matter too much. Now, I did get into the alpha, and I was able to play the game before the beta, but I wasn't able to talk about it because of copyright laws and all that kind of fancy lawyer stuff. But now since the beta's out and I was able to play the beta, I'm allowed to talk about the game. So I wanted to give my impressions on it and basically tell you what I think about the game, because this is a game that I've been really excited for ever since its announcement. So let's hop right into this thing and start talking about what I think about it. Now, starting off, the game opens up with you entering the city, and you obviously got hurt at some point before the game starts. It doesn't really explain what happens. It does explain that it's dropping you in not at the beginning of the game, but at some point in the game. But it does seem like you're kind of close to the beginning, like maybe after a tutorial segment or something. But besides that, you're pretty much just getting dropped into the city at that point. So when you first enter, you're basically not given too much to go on. It basically says, oh, walk through this area, go to this place, follow your map, and you eventually make your way to a hub. Now, the hub is actually really interesting where it has multiple areas to it. So there's a medical ward, a security ward, and a bunch of other wards, and as you progress through the story, you unlock and upgrade these areas and continue to grow them to allow you to get new abilities. So every time you upgrade a part of the medical hub, you'll get a new medical ability. Sadly, only the medical hub is allowed to be unlocked in the beta, so we didn't really get to explore any of the other abilities. But it is a cool idea that I enjoyed. I liked going around and collecting and doing side missions to increase and grow my little hub area, and kind of seeing it expand, because every time you do something, a bunch of pile of boxes or garbage will actually turn into a useful area that you can use, which is really cool. And I enjoyed it a lot. Now, moving on from the hub to the HUD, it's kind of interesting. Basically, the heads-up display, it has its perks and has its not perks. It's kind of not in the way it's next to your character, but it's also, it feels weird that it's always kind of floating there next to you. It makes sense because it's a third-person shooter to have it kind of sitting there, but at the same time, I'm looking at it while I'm playing, and it's kind of breaking the immersion a little bit. But again, it's a third-person shooter, so that in itself is kind of breaking the immersion. But, you know, I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't think it looks the greatest. The actual, menu itself is a little bit difficult to find your way around. The tutorial doesn't do a good job of it either. It's like, go to this area and upgrade your stuff, but it doesn't explain that area is, in a sub-menu within another menu. And it makes it getting to places in your menu to upgrade things and find stuff and do all your other kind of, main stuff that you have to do to play the game a little bit more difficult than it should be. But after a little bit of playtime, you do get used to it. I learned where everything was pretty quickly. It wasn't too crazy, but it could be better still. Now, from the way that the game is laid out, you have your main missions and your side missions from what we can see so far. And you also have just random missions too. So your main missions are your story missions where you go to a place. There's only one story mission we could play in the beta, which brought us to basically an arena. I forget the name of it, but it's a main arena in the New York area. And you have to go through there and make your way to the top of it and help rescue someone and fight a boss. And as you're getting to the higher levels, the enemies grow in level. It's basically like an MMO. Each enemy you fight has their own level, so, you know, you start off the mission, people are like level 3, and by the end, people are like level 4 and 5. And the boss is like a level 5 guy, but he's got a yellow health bar, so he's even stronger, and he's got a special name, so he's stronger, and he drops better weapons when you kill him. It's your standard MMO stuff, and it plays out pretty well. Obviously, it's nothing fancy, which it would be nice, but I guess you can't really do too much with regular people. Like, so far, the first boss is a guy with a chain gun. That's it. He's just a guy with a chain gun. That's the one thing I enjoyed about Destiny, was that you were able to kind of give each character their own personality when it came to bosses. So it was like, this guy is a giant big demon. Even though Destiny did a really crap job at it and ended up just making all of their bosses larger versions of characters that already existed. But with the Division, it's a bit different. There's not too much you can do, at least. At least from the beta, there wasn't too much creativity that I saw when it came to bosses. It was like, this guy's got a chain gun. This chick's hard to kill, and she's got armor, and she's got a sniper. It's nothing too crazy, but I did enjoy the boss fights, at least. So that's a plus. That's basically your main missions there. And then you have your side missions, which are missions that you can accept from basically bounty boards around the area, which will tell you, oh, there's like this thing needs to get done here. Like, you have to go to this area and secure this thing, or go to this area and kill this bad guy because they're killing people. One of the side missions is literally like, go kill this psycho murderer that's been running around town just randomly slaughtering people, so you have to go find her and kill her. That was a good mission. That was a fun and hard one. It took me a couple tries to actually get through it. And then you have your just kind of random missions, like you'll be walking around town and something will pop up on your mini-map and you'll be like, oh, okay, cool. I guess I'll just kind of stray away from what I'm doing right now and go finish that or do that mission, or just completely ignore and continue on the road doing what I want. And speaking of exploring and finding missions and whatnot, the hub world is actually pretty nice. It's not as amazing as I thought it would be, but it's probably because it's a beta and it seems that there are a lot of areas locked off. Especially from what I can see if you just open up the map, there's a lot you can see that's currently locked off. And I don't even know if it'll expand even past what it's kind of showing, which would be really cool. Now, the thing is that if it doesn't really expand past where it's showing right now, and it's just kind of that small area of New York, I feel like it'll get boring really quickly, even with the extra stuff that the game will add on. So hopefully they make it really large and really expansive, but we won't really know until the game comes out. So we'll have to see, but so far it's actually really cool. You have your dark zones, which I'll talk about in a minute. You have underground subways, buildings you can walk through, rooftops you can get onto, walking through the street with enemies all around, and it's a nice world to explore. It's pretty beautiful, and I like it. Well, it's not really beautiful, it's destroyed and destructed and gross, but I enjoyed exploring it for sure. Now, like I was saying, the dark zones are basically your PvP areas, and they play out a lot differently than I thought they would. I thought it would be like you enter a dark zone, and it kind of starts up a PvP match where it's like 3-on-3, and you go for the most kills, and whoever gets the most kills gets an item, and you can take that item, and then at the end of the match, if you don't betray anyone, your whole team leaves, and you get the items, or you can betray your teammates and take their items and hope that they don't kill you. The issue is, it's not really like that. It's basically an open area that you can just explore and find enemies in, like not other characters, but enemies in, and you can kill them and get their items. And those items are considered contaminated, so you have to bring them to a zone to get them extracted, and then you can get them later when you leave. You can also bump into actual players, and you can basically hope that they're not going to kill you, or shoot them yourselves, and that's the fun of it. It's kind of, whenever you bump into someone, it's like you're trying to figure out whether they're going to be a nice person or not. So, for example, There was one time where me and a guy met up at, basically we were at the evac area and we're trying to get rid of our items. And this guy's like kind of like doing a little gesture, waving, doing jumping jacks, basically trying to tell me that he's a nice guy. So we're just waiting there for the longest time, waiting for the helicopter to show up. And it shows up, and like 5 seconds before he goes to put his stuff on the helicopter, I blow 3 shotgun shots into his back and take all of his stuff and just take it all for myself. On the other hand, there's times where you're walking down the street and you just meet up with someone random and you'll just go on an adventure with them. There was one time where I was walking down the street and I bumped into a guy and we started waving at each other, and we went out into the subway and we killed a bunch of people, and not actual players, but a bunch of enemies, and found a bunch of good loot, and then brought it to the helipad and killed off a bunch of actual players who were trying to steal our stuff, and basically like kind of had a 2-man army going on. It was really fun. I didn't know this person, didn't communicate with them at all with a mic, but it was a fun time. There are some issues though, specifically with the beta. There's some areas that you can kind of hide in. I noticed that there's one area where there's only one entrance to, and basically like 4 guys were camping up there and just continuously killing people to gain what's called a rogue status. And if you get a high enough rogue status, it puts a manhunt on you, and if you can live through that manhunt, you get a ton of money. So basically these guys were grinding for money by camping in a spot that no one can get to. But from what I noticed, there is another way up there, but because it's the beta, you can't get to that side of the building. It's like locked off. So they were kind of using that to their advantage. Hopefully when the actual game comes out, we won't have to deal with anything like that, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. PvP is something that you'll probably want to get into, but if you're not into it, you won't have to. It's just a good way to find a lot of really good guns, but from my understanding, playing the campaign and just going through non-PvP areas are also like a way to, just find some good weapons too. So you don't really have to worry about PvP if you don't want to. I know some side missions and some main story missions, it even said, will have you going through the PvP areas, but truthfully, you don't really bump into too many players. It's just the random encounter every once in a while, unless you're near like the helipads where people are trying to evacuate your items. That's when you'll start bumping into large groups of people and actually having giant gunfights and whatnot. But I'm really hoping that the game turns out well. I'm hoping that it expands on the map, that there's new, because there's tons of mods and stuff for your guns, so maybe I want to see how they expand on the gun customization and character customization and see where the story goes. I really want to see the other parts of the hub, your little hub area that you can upgrade. I'm interested in how they take the game in different ways, and I'm really hoping it turns out to be good. But on the other hand, there are a lot of disappointments I had. It's definitely not an amazing game, and the controls feel a bit clunky at times. Specifically from leaving one part of cover and trying to get to another. It's not really fluent, and it's kind of hard to get going at times. If you want to get from one place to another, it's kind of hard for the game to recognize what you want to do. This is coming from someone who's played Gears of War for a long time, a game that is very precise when it comes to moving from cover to cover, and in a cover-based shooter, that's fairly important, and this game doesn't seem to have it quite down. But maybe in the full game that'll be changed up, but I kind of doubt it, sadly. So that might just be something that we have to deal with. So those are the things I'm excited for. Those were my thoughts on it, and that's what I'm not too excited about and what I didn't really enjoy. But besides all of that, that's kind of all I have to say about The Division. So if any of you are excited to play it or got to play the beta, let me know your thoughts below, and I would love to read them because I actually am really excited for this game. So thanks again for listening and watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.